would not purport to give you any advice on to what you should do with your life. If your question is, is it likely that you will get access to intoxicating marijuana with high THC content to relieve pain, it is not likely you will get that.
So move.
I did not say that. And I don't purport to give you advice on where you should live.
Live in pain, that's your...
I gave you no advice. Don't put words in my mouth.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question comes from Roland Lynch, right up here, regarding communication. Is there any legislation up and running to stop sabotage of electronics, computers, internet, and networks?
Not that I know of.
Well, there is constant efforts by the state of Iowa to deal with data breaches, all of those kinds of things in the best way we can. As you know, most of those things beg for a federal solution, not for a state solution, because the folks that steal identities and all of that kind of stuff, they don't necessarily have to come to Iowa to do it. So yeah, there's lots of work being done. There's lots of work being done. We've been working for probably 15 years to make sure identifying information isn't revealed. You know, it used to be our own paychecks. Legislators' own paychecks had our social security numbers on them. You know, that doesn't happen anymore. It used to be your entire credit card number was on your credit card receipts, and the copies of those receipts. So the work on that is constant, but again, it really begs for a federal solution.
There was a bill in the Education Committee, and I actually served on the subcommittee, which called for increased protections for student ID on computer sites in the schools so that their personal information would not be used for marketing and so forth by different companies. And we actually had an amendment that was agreed to by lobbyists for Google and Amazon and Facebook and others, and then about 6 hours later it kind of blew up. So I do not believe it passed the education. I don't think it was taken up in education, not to say that it's completely dead, and things can be resurrected, but yes, there are always bills that continually look to try to, especially as cyber technology increases, to keep us safe in that arena.
Yeah, follow-up question, Roland?
4 days ago, well, backtrack a month and a half ago, my internet set up at home, and other people were sabotaged. And then 4 days ago, I located it coming back out of Denver, Colorado. And now it comes up into the point I thought I forgot about getting Matt Wilbur, county attorney, to backtrack on the deal. I don't know where they're at on it.
Roland, you need to get to your question,
Oh.
please.
Who to go to when you do locate or find this problem?
Well, if you know somebody's broken the law, you certainly go to the county attorney. The trouble is, finding them is next to impossible, and just because you think it's in Colorado, it could be in India, it could be in China, it could be in Australia. So it may look like it came through Colorado, but you don't know that for a fact. If you have evidence, you can take it to the county attorney. But the state does not have a mechanism to help individuals figure out who has hacked their computers.
Okay, our next question comes from Barry Cleveland, right up there, regarding water quality. The lawsuit from Des Moines Water Works against upstream counties will impact the whole state. Any chance the legislature will react in some way or let the courts play this issue out?
Well, my approach, the lawsuit's going to play its way out. So here's the situation. Our laws as it relates to pollution, environmental pollution in this country, are predicated on two different things. One of them is point source pollution. And so that's the pipe coming out of the plant that goes into the river. That's a point source pollution. And that is regulated pretty effectively. And then there are non-point source solutions where everybody in Council Bluffs, except me, puts fertilizer on their lawn. And some of that, because my theory is if you plant crabgrass and dandelions, bluegrass moves in and takes over. So that's my theory. It hasn't worked so far, but I'm still working on that theory. So, but when it gets to non-point sources, and when you say non-point, it just means all of the general runoff that comes out of the city of Council Bluffs and goes into the storm sewers and goes into the river. That's non-point, because we don't know who did it. We know what, all of you did it, but I didn't, because I didn't put any of it on. So, that's kind of at the heart of the issue as to whether or not they can in fact identify specifically that those water districts, those drainage districts up there are a point source pollution. If they are, under federal law, a whole bunch of other things happen, okay? And that's all under federal law. From my perspective, here we are sitting here in Iowa, and what can we do about that? There's not too much we can do about what they're gonna do or decide to do at the federal level, but we can be much better partners with farmers. We have a backlog of well over $20 million in cost share to work with farmers to come up with better conservation practices that conserve soil, create buffer strips, all of those kinds of things. And we ought to be doing a much better job. The legislature last year passed an extra $20 million for that effort, and understand this is probably in the billions the size of the problem. But, and the governor vetoed that last year, that 20 million. I think we need to do a much better job of partnering with farmers that voluntarily want to do these kinds of practices. I also think we need to adjust our thinking at our Department of Natural Resources. You know, they say a filter strip has to be 64 feet wide. There are places where a 16-foot wide filter strip would catch 75, 80%. 64 would catch 95%, but 16 would catch 80%. We shouldn't be so rigid as to say, no, we're not going to help you reduce it by 80%. You've got to get to at least 95. So I think there's lots of things the state can do. We can do a better job, but number one, we got to start amping up, and right now we're not.
Barry, you have a follow-up question? Okay. This next question, there will not be a follow-up as this is not signed, regards the minimum wage bill. Are we going to let Nebraska workers get paid more than Iowa workers, or will we raise the minimum wage?
I can't, I doubt it won't be coming out of labor. It won't be, I think it's absolutely, I'm ashamed that Walmart in the state of Nebraska pays a higher minimum wage than the state of Iowa does. I'd like to, I know there's a Senate minimum wage bill coming over, but I just can't see anything on the House side coming out. I would like to see the 10-10, but that's all the information I have on that. But I'm sure the Senate's got one coming.
The Senate has already passed one. It goes in two steps, 75 cents July 1st this year, 75 cents July 1st next year, takes the minimum wage to $8.75 in Iowa. And we've already passed it in the Senate.
I don't know that it will be taken up in the House. I know it has been passed by the Senate. I don't know that it will be taken up in the House. But the minimum wage issue, while everyone wants everyone to have a living wage, there is a financial impact too in terms of our businesses in Iowa. We want, minimum wage is not meant to necessarily make people wealthy, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. It hurts some businesses, it helps, or it hurts some businesses, it helps some. It's kind of a wash in the end, but there is an impact to Iowa businesses. Congressional Budget Office has estimated numbers as well, but I don't know that it's going to come up in the House.
Okay, next question is based on a previous answer to question from Leanne Walker. Leanne, would you have a follow-up question regarding the ultrasounds that were discussed earlier?
No,
No? Okay,
thank you.
thank you. That does end the questions I have today. Everybody must want to get out and enjoy the sunlight, so we're gonna move to closing comments a little earlier than today, and I'd like to start.
Well, I would just say thank you all again for being here, and it does mean a lot that you take time out of your Saturday mornings when you could be doing a lot of other things to come and pay attention and care about the issues that are going on in our state. We don't have a lot of new information to give you today, simply because we're at that point in the session when we are sort of at that transition point between old committee meetings, so to speak, House in my case, and committee meetings that are now going to be taking up Senate legislation, and then, of course, the budget work about to begin in earnest. So, but again, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for our sponsors, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Also, I want to thank everybody for being here. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to come and listen to us. I know sometimes it's hard to listen to us, and I appreciate your questions. And I want to remind everybody on the table, sign up for a weekly newsletter, an email letter I put out, and I have a copy of that up there. So thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming, and have a great Saturday. Enjoy the weekend.
Before we go, thanks to our sponsors again, C.T. Hansen and Sons Painting, Leach Camper Sales, Inc., Ameristar Casino Hotel, Black Hills Energy out of Western Community College in Hackney. See you back in 2 weeks. They're happy to meet you.